Welcome to WebRTC Live. In WebRTC Live, we cover the latest technical topics and business use cases for WebRTC and live video. As always, this episode is brought to you by WebRTC.Ventures, leading integrators of WebRTC video into your custom application.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to WebRTC Live. I'm Arin Sime, CEO and founder of WebRTC Ventures and your host of WebRTC Live. WebRTC Ventures is a custom design and development firm specializing in building live video applications, and we're here to help you take your video application live. So you can learn more about us at WebRTC.Ventures. And I'm very excited today to have Bernard Aboba as our guest. Bernard is co-chair of the W3C WebRTC working group. At Microsoft, he's involved in WebRTC implementations and applications, including Skype, Teams, Edge, Xbox, and HoloLens. He's a regular presenter at WebRTC conferences and will be presenting at the Illinois Institute of Tech's Real-Time Communications Conference coming up this October. Where he will talk about leveraging the new features of WebRTC 1.0. And that's what we'll be getting a little preview of today, some presentations he's done around that topic. So thanks for joining us, Bernard.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
So if you'd like, you can go ahead and share your screen and tell us a little bit about WebRTC 1.0. And for those watching us live, if you would like to ask any questions, you are welcome to do that, and we'll try to cover them towards the end.
So at IIT, we'll be talking about leveraging the new features of WebRTC 1.0, and also about new API such as screen capture and content hint. The first thing to talk about is what we consider part of WebRTC, and that includes a bunch of shipping specifications, the WebRTC 1.0 spec, media capture, screen capture, content hint, media recording, and there actually is a Quas API that is in Chrome today. We also have some specs which have completed an origin trial for peer-to-peer quick. And we have some things that aren't implemented yet in production. We have a draft for scalable video coding, which has had a trial implementation. And then we have NV use cases. So many of you may know that the WebRTC 1.0 candidate recommendation is actually now the default in multiple browsers, including Chrome, Edge Preview, and Firefox. That started to roll out in Chrome in late January, and there is a transition guide available to help people convert their apps over to Unified Plan. One of the major changes in the WebRTC 1.0 CR is the addition of an object model that was originally developed in ORTC and is now present in the Unified Plan implementations. And that includes things like the RTB sender, the RTB receiver, the DTLS transport, and the ICE transport, as well as the SCTP transport. Now, in terms of implementation, we are almost feature complete in all browsers, at least in the latest version. And this is an example of an implementation tracker that we maintain. And in terms of features outstanding, we only have a few that aren't done yet, and a bunch that are in the process of being checked in. So as an example, we actually did just check in on ice candidate error. We have the SCTP transport in Chrome M76. The DTLS transport and ICE transport were in M75. We are still working on max frame rate. We do have scale resolution down by. And can insert DMF is still a work in progress. And if you check Blink Dev, there are intent to implement statements that tell you what's coming next. And quite a few of the features that aren't implemented yet are in progress there. So there are developers assigned to most of the things that aren't done yet. And so during our talk at IIT, we're going to be going over the status of these things in more detail and talking about how to use them and giving you code examples on how to make the best use of them in your own applications. So that's it for my talk preview.
Perfect. Thanks, Bernard. I appreciate it. This is, I know, a topic you've spoken on regularly, and you spoke earlier this year at the All Things RTC Conference. So I know there's a copy of that available on YouTube for those who want to see you go through some of this in more detail, as well as joining us at the IIT RTC Conference coming up in October. And for those who want to join us at that in Chicago, you can register at rtc-conference.com. I have a couple of questions for you, Bernard, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I'm going to start with one from one of our live viewers. Related to Microsoft Edge Chromium. So based on public info, the Edge Chromium release will be Q3 of 2019. So the question, Alberto's question is Edge going to support the whole WebRTC API as part of that Q3 2019 release, or any nuances that you're aware of?
Yes, so you may be aware that Edge Beta is out now for multiple platforms, and that does have complete support for WebRTC. Many of the features that people asked for that were not in the old version of Edge are now there. So for example, we have the data channel, simulcast support, both Plan B and unified plan, the object model. The way to think about it is that Edge Beta is basically the same feature set as Chrome. And if you look at the actual release numbers, they give you an idea of how they correspond to Chrome.
Okay.
And many people are using Edge Beta today, and I would encourage the viewers to actually look at it and file bugs. But basically, if there's anything missing that's in Chrome and not in Edge Beta, that would be considered a bug.
Okay. So that's great news. So they should be completely feature compatible, and anything that is not would be a bug. So speaking of browser compatibility is a question I have. I know over the history of WebRTC that screen sharing has been implemented a couple of different ways across the browsers between whitelisting apps that can share screens or extensions in the browser. How is that changing with WebRTC 1.0, and what's the future of screen sharing?
So the screen capture standard is now implemented in Firefox, in Chrome, in Edge Beta, and I think it's in the Safari preview.
Okay.
And those are relatively compatible. The only differences are with respect to support of sharing of audio.
Okay.
So I think that we can say that whitelisting is on the way out, if not completely gone.
That's great. As developers, I think we definitely appreciate that. Looking forward to that. So I know one question that you get pretty regularly about WebRTC 1.0 is around the object model and why WebRTC has moved away from ad stream and into the object model. Can you kind of give us the short answer of why that decision was made?
Yeah, I would say the two decisions to move from stream to tracks and the object model were somewhat separate. The move to tracks really related to the need to be able to operate on audio and video separately.
Mm-hmm.
So as an example, we have scale resolution down by, which wouldn't make sense for audio.
Right.
And so you really need to apply that to a given track. And once we decided to move to the track model, it made sense to also have the object model so we could apply parameters to tracks. That relates to the sender and receiver.
Mm-hmm.
But then we decided we wanted more diagnostic ability with respect to connection state. And that's why we have the DTLS transfer and the ICE transfer.
Excellent. Yeah, so I understand part of the benefit of the object model and the new implementation is around being able to get more information around what's going on in the ICE connections and in simulcast. For those who develop WebRTC applications using one of the CPaaS platforms, I'm curious, how much do you think they need to know about the details of that WebRTC implementation, or is it all kind of obfuscated by the CPaaSs for them? What do you think those sorts of integration developers should be aware about?
Well, the question has always been about advanced applications.
Mm-hmm.
In a basic application, it shouldn't make that much difference.
Okay.
But when you're doing simulcast or multiple streams on a single peer connection, you really do need the detail.
Uh-huh.
Because things can go wrong. You need the stats, for example, on the individual streams.
Right.
And then the detail will become important.
Yeah, that makes sense. And kind of taking it up a further level from there, for those of our viewers who maybe are not developers, but more on the business side of things and thinking about sort of the how they want to implement their video strategy. What is there anything about WebRTC 1.0 that you think they should be thinking about, how this changes how they might do video? What sort of features maybe bubble up to the user's perspective?
The goal is to enable very sophisticated video conferencing kinds of applications. Simulcast is the first step towards that. You also have screen sharing. So now you can do both conventional video and screen sharing at the same time. You can have multiple participants. And with the extensions we're working on for SVC, now you can have scalable video coding. So the sophistication increases greatly.
Yeah.
And part of the SVC work is also about supporting AV1 in the future. So that opens the door to high resolution and things like holograms and immersive experiences.
So that's a good, maybe a good segue to my next question of immersive experiences and holograms. I know you work on some other interesting applications outside of pure video conferencing and what Microsoft is doing. Is there any particular news coming out of Microsoft in the future around Edge or other projects that we should be looking out for? Anything you want to make sure we go check out?
Well, we have a HoloLens SDK now,
Excellent.
which supports WebRTC. And so you can write WebRTC apps that include the HoloLens.
Excellent. Well, that will definitely be something for us to play with. A lot of interesting possibilities there and a lot of fun. Any other last sort of comments you wanted to make, Bernard?
Well, I think it's important for developers to begin to look at WebRTC 1.0 CR in detail.
Mm-hmm.
It is the default, although a lot of applications are still using pre-standards technology. But it's very likely that in 2020, it will be complete enough to be able to build apps on top of the new standard.
Nice.
And so developers should be prepared for that.
Excellent. Excellent. Great. Well, thank you very much, Bernard. You can close down your screen sharing if you like, and I'll just make a few closing comments here before we end this episode of WebRTC Live. So thanks again for joining us, Bernard. Bernard will be with us at the IIT RTC Conference in Chicago. In addition to being able to see this episode on Crowdcast, we'll also be posting it to the WebRTC Ventures blog and to YouTube next week. And if you want to keep up to date with our upcoming episodes of WebRTC Live, you can subscribe on Crowdcast or join our email list at WebRTC Ventures. A couple of upcoming episodes I can briefly announce here. Next Thursday, September 5th at 12 o'clock Eastern, we'll talk with Lorenzo Miniero from Meet Echo about updates on Janus and SFUs. On September 19th at 12 o'clock Eastern, we will speak with Varun Singh from CallStats about contact center quality and an update on CallStats. And then on Thursday, October 3rd, we'll be speaking with Kyle Bank from Phoenix Real-Time Systems about trivia and gaming in WebRTC. So it'll be an interesting use case discussion there. And do just want to quickly mention, again, that Illinois Institute of Technology Real-Time Communications Conference, where Bernard and others of our upcoming guests will be speaking. That'll be in Chicago on October 14th through 16th, and there will be an associated TAD Hack and TAD Summit the same weekend, the prior weekend as well. You can learn more about that at rtc-conference.com. So you can go ahead, registrations are open. We look forward to seeing you there, Bernard, as well as our guests. So thanks, Bernard. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today, and let's make it live.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Bernard.
Thanks for joining us for WebRTC Live. Visit our website at WebRTC.ventures to learn more about our custom design and development services, and to learn more about upcoming episodes of WebRTC Live.